Good to go.
Hello, my name is Clarissa Griebel. Welcome to C70 Live. I'm here with Caroline Turner, who's running for judge in the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas. I'm a former Buchholz Fellow with the Committee of 70, and I'll be conducting our little question and answer session today. And Caroline, why don't you take a second to say hello and introduce yourself?
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Caroline Turner, and I'm running for judge of the Court of Common Pleas.
So welcome on this slightly warm afternoon. I hope everybody is having a pleasant day. Caroline, one of our first questions is, what is one life experience you have that voters should know about?
Oh, well, there's been quite a few. As you may notice, I have an English accent. I was born actually in Germany, daughter of a military man, and so traveled around an awful lot. But I have made my home Philadelphia. This is the place I finally adopted as my home. And something that your viewers might like to know about me is that I was a public defender for many years. So I've had that professional experience with the criminal justice system, but I've also had a very tragic personal experience with immigration. My oldest son was barred from the country for 5 years just because immigration officials can do whatever they want to do. They have complete discretion. And it all ended very tragically for him. He had a little boy here. He couldn't visit his little boy. He didn't actually have family in England because we'd been away for such a long time. His family was here. And it ended very badly for him. He had mental health issues and he gave up hope when Trump came into power. And so we've suffered personally as well as seeing how bad our justice system is professionally. So what I'd like you to know is that this is personal for me. The system must change. We must make the justice system fair and equitable for all people. And I decided that being a judge was one way of changing the system, one case at a time, one judge at a time. And that's what I'm determined to do.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with us. What do you think sets you apart from other candidates?
I think what sets me apart is that I've already had experience with bail reform. I was a public defender in New Jersey, and they passed the Bail Reform Act at the beginning of 2017, and it's been spectacularly successful. They all said that violent crime and recidivism rates would go up if we were to do bail reform. But in fact, they have not gone up, and the jails are half empty, and people pre-trial are being supervised in community by pre-trial services. And it's going really, really well. It's been a spectacular success. So I have seen how successful bail reform, getting rid of cash bail, can be, not just on individuals' lives on a daily basis, but also for the system in general, because communities are reviving in New Jersey. People are being referred to services in their communities. People are living with the hope of getting treatment or whatever it is they're needing, you know, when they end up in the courtroom. And it's just been a spectacular success. So I've worked in that system, seen that it works, and would know how to, case by case, look at all the different factors that you look at when you're deciding bail motions, which I don't think is happening a lot at the moment. I think people, right. judges on the whole are just looking at the crime and, you know, not necessarily looking at the whole person, the totality of the circumstances, if you like.
Is there one case that sticks out in your mind that you wish you could have done more with, had more support for?
Oh, yes, there was a case I had where a young man who had Lou Gehrig's disease, he was paralyzed in his upper body, and he was in a car stop. And in that same car, they found a gun, the police did. And the gun was nowhere near my client. And they were all carted off to jail and charged with the gun possession, which is what happens in the car stop cases. And all his friends were saying, no, it wasn't him. He can't even hold a gun. And they were all taken down to the jail. This was prior to bail reform. And I rushed down to the jail, but he was not there. I came to learn 4 months later, I got a phone call from a security guard. He had been put in a nursing home because the jail couldn't manage his health issues. And the poor guy, he couldn't phone because he couldn't use his hands to make a phone call. And the security guard very kindly made the phone call to me and said, by the way, your client is here. And I was like, oh my gosh, nobody told me where he was. He'd been sitting there chained to a bed for 4 months. I filed a reconsideration of bail motion immediately. The next day, he was brought before the judge, and the judge lowered his bail just a tiny bit, but not enough for him to get out. And at that point, I was very upset. I said it shocked the conscience that you could be keeping this man chained to a nursing home bed for 4 months. There happened to be a reporter in the courtroom, and the reporter reported on it, and it became actually a national and international story. And lo and behold, the next day, the prosecutor called me and said, we've given him an ROR released on his own recognizance. So he did at that point get out. But obviously, I felt so horrible that this poor young man had been sitting there chained to a nursing home bed for 4 months.
Right.
And I didn't know about it. So,
right.
But it also shows that when people get called on things happen. So, alerting the general public through the newspapers was what made him be released in the end.
Right. Right.
So we need to make a noise. In other words, sometimes we need to speak up.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. What is one quality that you have that you would bring to your courtroom?
Well, I think because of my life experiences, my experience with the mental health issues with my son, and also having been a public defender, I wasn't originally a nurse. I think I'm very compassionate. I look at the whole person and I try and solve the problems rather than just, a lot of times people are just wanting to put them in jail or whatever, whereas I have actually been seeking out community leaders and resources. We have so many more resources than we're actually using in community. So what I feel I would be doing is looking at the whole person, and if they're suffering from psychiatric issues, get them into treatment in the community, not throw them in a jail. Same with drug addiction issues. Same with, some people have dropped out of school for whatever reason. They can get into a GED program while they're waiting for their case to go through the motions, or, job training, or mentorship resources that we have in our communities. It would be really wonderful to start cycling people in and out of good community resources rather than the negative impact of cycling in and out of jail.
Right.
So I think that's what I bring, is an overall, I look at the overall human being that's in front of me as opposed to just the crime or some of the other factors that get looked at exclusively.
Did I hear you say that you were a nurse previously?
I was a long time ago in Britain.
Oh, you were? How many years were you a nurse?
I was a nurse altogether 4 years after my training.
Okay.
And that was in London before I started having multiple children. Well, but after that, I got into human rights, and through that circuitous route, I got into the law.
So you had how many children?
4.
4 children, and then you got your law degree?
No, what happened was we lived in Spain, and that's when I did a lot of fundraising for Bosnia, because the war in Yugoslavia, the genocide, was going on. And the fundraising was so successful for a refugee camp in Bosnia that I was invited by the Aragonese government to go on a convoy, a humanitarian convoy to Bosnia. And what I saw in Bosnia and what I heard from the women in these refugee camps was so harrowing that I determined to get more education. And so after being in Spain, we were then moved with my ex-husband's job to Mexico. And in Mexico, I did a master's degree in Spanish. And then we were moved to the States. And that's when I applied to the University of Pennsylvania and did a master's degree, and then went on to law school from there.
Wow.
And all of that was as a single mom of 4 kids, actually. So,
wow. Well,
yeah.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you.
That is quite the accomplished career.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, we're delighted that you were able to join us today. I think this was a wonderful way to get to know you, and we appreciate your time, and thank you for running for this position. We're really great to have you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and thank you everyone for joining us. I hope this gives you an opportunity to get to know Caroline Turner a little bit better. Have a wonderful day.